from an early age, you learn to try to compete. And if you'd never done that before, there's no better shot, right? You really have to step up at that position. I think I was so lucky that I had different pitching coaches along the way there. If this guy he was amazing at a drop ball. Okay, well, did you ever see the rise ball? I mean, and we're talking about, we're aging myself now, right? Like it wasn't on every TV. So you would go down to the ballpark and that's where you said, oh my gosh, what did he just throw? Or what did she just throw?
Whether you live northeast, west, or south, the best fast pitch info comes from the coach's mouth. Welcome to the From the Coach's Mouth podcast with your hosts, Jay Bolden and Ken Kraus. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the From the Coach's Mouth podcast. This is Ken Kraus here along with Jay Bolden, bringing you all the news of softball. We've got a lot to talk about today. We've got a great guest coming up, so we're looking forward to that. But before we get into it, of course, as we're recording this, the Women's College World Series just got going. So, Jay, have you been able to watch any of that, or have you been too busy doing lessons?
No, I'm absolutely making time to watch that. I think this is an important time for everybody. I say it to a lot of my clients, Ken, especially with pitching. I'm like, hey, listen, we are at the prime position right now to be learning how to really pitch at a high level. So, I mean, after all the pitches, you see the slow-mo, right? You see a lot of the brush happening at the hip, the spins. I mean, and they slow it down for us. And so I tell my kids all the time, like, watch college softball. Like, you're going to see what's really happening during a release and what's not happening during a release, right? And so it's been great. The Oklahoma game yesterday, again, I don't know if you can ever count that team out. Again, we're the Oregon game with the UCLA Oregon, the obstruction calls again. I don't know. It's been a very interesting Women's College World Series so far, and I think it's only going to get more interesting as we go along. How about you? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, it was funny because I was doing lessons yesterday during the Oklahoma-Tennessee game. And when I checked in on it, it was the top of the seventh. Oklahoma was down 3-1. And I figured, oh, well, I guess that game's over. And then later on, when I was doing my student notes from the lessons and all, I went over and I checked it out real quick. And I was shocked. Oklahoma won 4-3. And it was just like, you got to be kidding me. But yeah, you can't ever count that team out. Hey, I agree.
Yeah, go ahead, Ken.
I was just going to say another thing I want to do. I want to give a little shout out to one of our previous guests here on From the Coach's Mouth, and that's JD Koziarski. His team, Horizon, they won their first ever regional title. So that had to be
that's
exciting.
Awesome. I know he said that he felt they had a really good chance this year to get it. It's the first one in the school's history. I think the first one for the school out of any sport. He said, right? So. That's awesome. And then also, too, don't forget, I think one of our other guests, too, Lauren Hager, just got inducted to the Florida Gators Hall of Fame there, too. So that's two former guests that's been on this podcast that has some really good things going for him. So any other college coaches out there listening, hey, get on From the Coach's Mouth podcast. Good things are happening to people. So we look forward to having some more people on here and see their continued success as well, too. But congratulations to JD and to Lauren. That's amazing.
That's right. We take full credit for that.
Yes. No, but yes.
Yeah. Actually, I want to do one more shout out, and this is to one of my students. I posted this up on Facebook. I don't usually do that, pull the game changer stuff, but it was just so extraordinary. A young lady named Erin Olson, who I'm going to tell you right now, she's not going to remind anybody of Carlin Pickens. She is not an overpowering pitcher by any means, but that girl can spin the ball. Partially thanks to the fact that she's got a hyperlax elbow that's just creepy to watch. She can keep her hand in supination out to her front leg. So she's got a heck of a rise ball, throws a really good screwball. Yesterday, she went 11 innings in a 1-0 game, took the win with 21 strikeouts.
Wow, that's incredible. Congrats to her. Congrats to you, young lady. That's awesome.
So very proud. But of course, we didn't come here to talk about all of our triumphs and all of those things. We came to talk to our wonderful guest. So we're going to do a little introduction here. If you ever feel like you need a shot of positive energy to improve your day, our guest today is a person you'll want to talk to. Whether it's as a high school or college coach or as a private instructor, everyone she comes in contact with feels a little more ready to take on the world after hanging out with her, even for a short time. A native of Moline, Illinois, she was not only a member of the inaugural softball team at the University of Illinois, she was awarded the title of Pitcher of the Year as a freshman that season. After an injury cut her playing career short, she stayed on at the U of I, earning a Bachelor of Science degree in advertising while being on the academic honor roll all 4 years. She got her start in coaching when she was hired as the pitching coach at University Liggett School, a private high school in Michigan. Through a series of circumstances, she ended up taking on the role of head coach while managing a roster of just 10 student athletes. Never one to shrink from a challenge, she took that team to the state quarterfinals of the Michigan Independent Athletic Conference playoffs. From there, our guest became the assistant softball and pitching coach at Macomb, Dakota High School, where she helped guide the Cougars to 3 consecutive Macomb Area Conference Red titles, 3 straight district crowns, and 2 regional titles. Those teams also earned a Michigan High School Athletic Association state quarterfinal appearance, a runner-up finish in 2021, and a number 1 ranking during the 2023 regular season. That success led her to joining the D1 University of Detroit, Michigan coaching staff as its pitching coach for the 2024 season. She has also seen success as a private instructor, where she continues to help pitchers find success on the field and has been instrumental in guiding many pitchers to continue their career in college. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm from the coach's mouth welcome to our friend Pam Savich.
Awesome.
Hi, Pam.
Thank you, guys.
How are you?
Hey, guys. How are you, Ken? Hey, Jay. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah.
We appreciate your time. Like we tell everybody, it's to spend an hour with us is we really appreciate it. We're happy to have you. Are you ready to get after a little bit here? Ask some questions?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, I'm excited. I listened, and you guys are such a wealth of knowledge, and it's pretty fantastic to get to hang out with you for the next hour.
Well, we're happy you're here too.
For sure.
So, all right. Well, let's kick it off like we do with just about everybody. Give us an idea of how you got started in fast pitch softball. Where did it start for you? Go back as far as you can and give us a little bit of a timeline or progression as how it got started.
Okay. So I grew up in the Quad Cities, which is Moline, Illinois. Over in the Quad Cities, it straddles the Iowa-Illinois border. It is Davenport, Bettendorf, Moline, and Rock Island. And that place was, unbeknownst to me growing up, this great hotbed for softball. It absolutely was not just girls, but men's fast pitch was really prevalent there as well. And that, growing up, I was just so blessed. It was such an exciting piece of just the environment. I grew up, I could see the Mississippi River from where I lived. And there was this beautiful ballpark that was just below the hill. And you would watch. The lights would be on and every night, and you would just, somebody was out there, whether it was softball with men's, whether it was softball with girls. And that was something that was pretty special. There was everything from, ICA, Quad Cities, national tournaments. There was World Series for men. And I was lucky enough that my parents worked for John Deere at the time. And these guys that played professional softball certainly didn't get paid unbelievably. So they had to have a real job too. And it was one of the things that my dad ended up working with this great pitching coach that also happened to pitch for the men's fast pitch teams that were there. And it's kind of where it all started. He said, "You want to come try it out?" And it was my first year ever playing. I think I was 3rd or 4th grade.
Okay.
And went out and just tested it out. And it was God-given. I know that that's not something that always happens, but when I picked up a softball and went underhand, it clicked. And I think that that's probably a lot of kids. Like, they just find that fun little softball bug. And I think how lucky you get this little tiny window of when these girls are willing to try this sport and try getting on that pitching mound and being in that circle. And some people aren't brave enough to do that.
Yeah.
So for me, it took fire and I never let it go. And so for me, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's funny because I always talk about that with girls who are interested in pitching and all of that. And, they might be a little bit tentative. And I tell them that, here's the thing is you have to be able to handle it because the circle looks bright and shiny from the outside, but inside it can be a very cold and dark place. Things aren't going
really
well.
Is.
So you have to be able to handle both ends of that. It's nice to get all the accolades when you do well, but, if you're having control trouble that day, it can be a little bit dicey. So obviously didn't bother you.
It didn't, but it's learning always, right? It's something that I think from an early age, you learn to try to compete. And if you'd never done that before, there's no better shot, right? You really have to step up at that position. And I think I was so lucky that I had different pitching coaches along the way there. If this guy he was amazing at a drop ball. Okay, well, did you ever see the rise ball? I mean, and we're aging myself now, right? Like it wasn't on every TV. So you would go down to the ballpark and that's where you said, oh my gosh, what did he just throw? Or what did she just throw? We had a long history of, even within the girls stuff, lots of state titles lots and lots of at least competition there. They might not have won everything, but we did also host back in the day, it was ASA finals, state finals, but now I think it's NFCA state finals. And so because of that, you would just go and you would see, oh my gosh, what is she throwing? And then you'd have to learn it or at least try. So yeah, no, I think it can be a lonely place, but it can also be really, really self-serving. It is one of the things that you kind of make your own little mantras, right? Like be better, like learn how to challenge yourself, learn how to, gosh, maybe that didn't go well, but how cool was it when you just struck that girl out? So you got to hold on to the positive there. And I think that's kind of shaped who I am. So yeah.
Yes, for sure.
So Pam, you started at a young age, going down there, learning how to pitch like you were talking about, but was softball like your first sport? And if it was, what other sports did you play when you were growing up that, helped you be a better athlete?
Yeah, sure. When I first started everything, it was getting involved in softball. Softball was number one. And then I also did basketball. And I'm not a giant, so, but that doesn't matter when you're 10, 11. And then I also did a little bit of volleyball. But I will say softball did end up being my number one pretty early. Like I said, it just really took. And I'll tell you what, I didn't know that PO was even a thing. I thought that pitchers only, who knew what that was? I didn't ask that question going into college because every pitcher I ever met knew how to rake. Like we just hit. Yeah, no, I mean, from an early age, hitting was fantastic. Pitching was fantastic. I was a little shortstop, but if you saw my overhand now, I don't know if you'd believe me.
Sounds like you pitched from the beginning. Was that kind of your introduction to softball, was pitching?
It was. My dad.
Okay, cool.
My dad worked at John Deere with a guy named Charlie Earl. He was known for his rise ball. He started me out, and I think my first lesson, it was strikes all day. I mean, and that's unheard of when you first start.
Oh yeah.
I mean, right away. Don't get me wrong. Like the strike zone changes a little bit as you advance, but it was natural. And I mean, then I didn't put a softball down. It was, how do you learn to do more? What else can I do with it? Yeah, I had a great time with it.
When you went to the U of I, that was a new program, right?
It was.
How'd you end up going there?
Okay, so let me back you up a little bit. Growing up in the Quad Cities, it's an hour away from University of Iowa. University of Iowa had a long-standing program. They had a competitive program. We had camps all throughout when I first picked up a ball. So an hour away, I would go out there, do camps. And then eventually my pitching coach was Karen Jackson. She was one of their All-Americans. She would open up their giant bubble and we would do pitching lessons in the bubble. It was the coolest experience. And so from an early age, I want to go to Iowa. Like, I want to go to Iowa. And when it came down to recruiting, Iowa had no room. Especially not for a little 5'6", I mean, I wasn't a speed demon. I mean, not in any world that is correlated to speed now, right? Back in the day, I mean, our wheelhouse was 61, 62, and that was unbelievable. So back in the day, snail mail was how you got all of your attention.
Right.
I would get snail mail from all of my big tournaments. I mean, we went down to Florida. The Quad Cities was quite a draw at the time for our state tournament, for all of our local tournaments. They were nationally attended. We would have California, we would have Florida come in, we would have all your big names. And so the way that you got recruited was a lot of snail mail coming in, and you would go and kind of check out the schools. And so there was buzz about new programs coming on. I heard from an Iowa family that University of Illinois was building their program. I also heard that Duke was building their program. And it was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So I went out and I visited. I visited the schools that looked at me, whether it was mid-majors. I had a couple Big Ten schools, but I was an academic monster. So I knew that a good chunk of wherever I went was going to be covered, no matter what the program was. And so I was lucky enough that you kind of hear through the grapevine who the coaching selection options will be. And two of the schools that were looking at me had coaches that were in the running. And so for me, the school had to fit. And I was so lucky that I walked on campus and the campus was unbelievable. It was buzzing with excitement. Quad is beautiful. It had the major I was looking at, which was pre-med. I went in and yeah, you see this girl at pre-med, right?
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I fell in love with the school. I fell in love with the school. And so when I fell in love with the school and I found out that the coaching options, what they were going to be, I was done. It perfect. Set it up. I had gone to other schools to compare. So that was a nice thing to know that I wasn't selecting. You don't know when you're coming up through high school. You get these letters, right, and the letters are exciting, and now even still they get the emails and the emails are exciting. And at least you can look it up online now. Back in the day, it really wasn't like that. You had to go and visit to figure out what the campus looked like, what it felt like. Back then, it made it easy. There's nothing like a Big Ten university. I mean, the environment, the way that the athletics are run, the money, the program itself. I was very lucky for the opportunity that happened there. And I think even still, it is a big deal to kind of realize that that school has to fit you. And I think for some of my pitchers, I've really encouraged them to do their homework in advance. I mean, you and I both know that like even just doing your homework for pitching lessons is one thing, but doing your homework to look to see where you're going to spend the next 4 years is a really big deal. And being able to see what the campus looks like, see if they have your major, going onto campus and seeing if you can actually handle a school that size. The high school that I went to was one of the biggest high schools in the state. And so back in the day, going to something little really wasn't a challenge. It didn't feel like home. It was too small. And so I looked forward to the challenge of it. I'd always been someone that kind of said, new is an opportunity. And so that had always kind of been my mindset. Going out there, it was just proving to everybody that I could do it. So yeah, I picked it and I would have never gone back. It was fantastic.
I want to say one thing too here, Pam, and I really love the fact that you're talking to your kids that you're working with now about really looking and trying to find what's going on too. I also I feel like these kids nowadays are so enamored with they go on that visit. They don't ask questions, or they're not asking questions that are things that are going to affect them. It's more about, what bats do we use or this or that, instead of asking, the players, hey, what is the coach like there when coach is mad? What's being taught in the bullpens, right? Like, I think the biggest thing for me is, and I agree with you. Like, I try to tell my kids, like, hey, here's a list of 6 questions you need to ask. And if that turns the coaches off because you're asking them, then you understand that that's probably not the right fit for you, because I feel like the kids get on campus and they're so overwhelmed with what's going on that visit that they don't ask the questions that are going to have the biggest effect on them 2 years, or next year when they're there and they're realizing, well, I didn't know coach was like this when coach is mad, or I didn't know I have to do these crazy drills in the bullpen because coach doesn't teach like I was taught. So that's going to have an effect on me, And I think the fact that you're taking time to tell your kids that, hey, listen, dig deep and look into all these things, I think is great. So that's awesome. I want to ask you something though, if you don't mind, going back to you going to University of Illinois, and it was a startup. What was that like? Because startups, I think, take time. You said you visited other mid majors and stuff like that. When you went to U of I and it was a startup, like, give us a little bit about what that experience was like.
Sure. Well, let me start with the mid majors that I looked at were within the state. And so you could ask some of those questions, right? I knew roughly back in the day, there were no pitching coaches, at least not for most of the schools. I mean, it wasn't a UCLA because UCLA was king at the time. Going into it, you could talk to other players, but it was literally only on your visits. So if you went in and you made your little introduction into the campus and you're talking to people, you were just hoping that they were honest. Going into a brand new program, you didn't have that, right? I didn't know who I was coming in with other than, did I love the school? And was I okay with the coaching options? And I had looked at both coaches. I had talked to both coaches. I had seen coaches out at my different tournaments before things were officially announced. I saw one of them at one of my tournaments and said, "Hey, coach, see you soon." And yeah. You and I both know that they can't even respond to that. But I loved the way, gosh, in hindsight, now that I've been through it, they were fantastic people. I challenge my girls now to not completely fall in love with the coach itself. The coach themselves can leave at any point in time.
Right.
And they do.
Right.
A successful program means that coach probably will get bigger opportunities. And as much as no one wants to think about that, it happens all the time. Okay, so new program, walked in, got to figure it out with all of these girls who were brand new to the school as well. There were older girls, there were girls that were walk-ons, there were tryouts. There were pieces that girls who shouldn't be on a field. There were girls that you'd played against your entire life and you just kind of went, oh, wait, we both had the same idea. I'll never forget. There was a girl from KC Chaos. I don't know if that's even a team anymore. And she and I, oh my God, we used to just stare each other down. She was a third baseman and she would just come after me during travel tournaments. Well, gosh darn, if she wasn't on the field when I got there that day, she ended up being my best friend. She ended up being my third baseman, and our college pictures, if you look back at all of our pictures, she's by my side for everything. But it's cool to see that similar mindsets, they end up clicking and you will find your people. And that's what's pretty awesome. For that first year, we did not have a home field. They had intramural fields before that. So every game that we played was an away game. And so that was a whole different experience than probably what anybody is experiencing right now. It was fun. I mean, traveling and learning what your coach's mentality is, learning the effects of working out every day. I'll never forget our first practice. She said, "Put your stuff down. We're going for a jog." And we went for 3 miles.
Oh,
not fun.
Oh my gosh.
Had you ever run 3 miles in your life before?
Never. Never. But I'll tell you what, it made me love it. I mean, it's an outlet for me now. And so the things you learn, you hold on to them. It's pretty cool. But it's one of my favorite stories.
What you're describing there, it sounds like it was the barnstorming days of, minor league baseball back in the 30s and the 40s, just going from town to town playing.
It was. I mean, our first tournament was in Myrtle Beach. So we all jumped on a plane together and got to go and just do it. I mean, we practiced all the time. And I don't think there's a big difference between having your own field and being able to just go get on some dirt. I'll never forget, we had a rugby team and we used to practice on the rugby fields and there were these giant hills behind us. And that was our calisthenics. It was go run the hills. A little different than how they do it now.
Yeah.
But
I was going to say real quick, I don't know, did you see the video when they're showing all of the kids that are in the Women's College World Series right now, the videos of the 1982, and they're like, there's no helmets? They're not wearing helmets? And
I love that.
Like, what's going on? I'm like, people don't, we had Linda on this podcast. They don't realize how tough it was for these how tough these ladies were back in the day. I mean, they were just tough as nails. No helmets. The one kid's like, "Oh, look at that outfield. The outfield looks sloppy, choppy." I'm like, "Yeah, it was.
Right,
That's
it's not
how they
manicured.
played." Yeah, and the fence is like a breakaway fence. Yeah, the fence. Yeah, it's all choppy. That outfield's look choppy, and all the fences in the outfield are breakaway, like plastic white fences. I'm like, yeah, it's a little different now, isn't it? So
yeah, I mean, they never leveled a field. I remember we played at Drake, I think, or something like that. I think it was kitty litter we played on, and we were wearing shorts. So sliding in kitty litter was unreal. But I mean, it wasn't quite 1982, which that video was, but we had helmets, but I certainly didn't wear a face mask, and the bats were not what they are now.
Yeah, no.
That is a huge, huge difference. I will tell you, there were a lot of transitions. High school for me was 40 feet. And then once you moved to college, it was 43. Talk about a transition, right? Like you tried to transition your entire off season to make your ball still break the way that it did, where it's supposed to. That speed that you thought you had, three feet is an equalizer.
Yeah,
for sure.
People don't remember that the mound was at 40 feet through high school, and then again, also people, that's back in the day when you had to have 2 feet on the rubber to start. So you didn't have that back foot helping as much as it can help nowadays, So I think it's, the game has definitely evolved over the last several decades, but it's crazy.
And I think that's a great thing. I mean, I think that I never saw a slow-mo video in my life until after I had kids with pitching, right? It was a really long time. And the things you thought you did back then, the things I was taught, so wrong. And it kind of like such a reality check. And the reason I stopped playing softball was from injury.
Right.
That happening and knowing how hard I worked to get where I got, how hard I worked to be good. If only I knew then what I knew now, right?
Yeah.
Like I can't even imagine how cool it would have been.
Yeah. So that brings up another point is I know that you've said before that you were a little disappointed when you looked at your numbers back in the day, when you were kind of going through it, but you still managed to be the pitcher of the year at Illinois. So what was disappointing about it to you? And, now looking at it with a little different perspective, do you feel the same way? Or do you feel better about what you actually were able to accomplish?
Gosh, ERA is kind of the metric, right? I mean, I know speed matters, spin matters, spot matters, but ERA is really your story. You got to keep the runs low. And as far as I was concerned in high school, I think this is probably true of every high school pitcher that ends up playing beyond high school. You have lived in an arena where you were pretty dominant. You have lived in an arena where your ERA was probably pretty close to 1 or pretty darn low. And that, unfortunately, once you get to college, now you're playing the best players. And as much as that's logic, your head doesn't always feel that way. You're so used to getting that strikeout. You're so used to being dominant. And especially where I came from, it was 40 feet before you went to college. Now you're going to 43. You've given those batters that much more reaction time. When I played, it was absolutely a pitcher-dominated sport. The bats were not as hot as they are now. They were not composite bats. They were one nasty piece of aluminum. And the ball would still go yard, but not very often. So when I got to college and they could put their bat on the ball, and I can't tell you how embarrassed I almost was leaving college, and my ERA was over 2. Mm-hmm. It wasn't huge. But at the time, I think I compared everything to high school. High school, I was a sub-1 ERA, or at least really close to it. And then when you leave college, and softball has been your identity for so long, and let's say you're even going back to a high school reunion or going back home after a summer break or going back and playing travel ball with kids that maybe didn't play that same level of competition, and they had X amount of strikeouts, or they had this unbelievable ERA. It's a comparison show. I mean, I know that the school that I played for was awesome and unbelievable, and I could not be more proud of where I went and the friendships and teammates and degree. But at the end of the day, you still want to be the guy. And coming back home and going, gosh, my ERA was over 2. Like, oh.
Yeah.
Now looking at it, holy cow, my ERA was round 2.
Yeah.
I mean, so I have a girl right now. That's one of my private kids that goes to Illinois, and she is fantastic. She's their ace right now. And I am so proud of her. I mean, for the bats of what they are now, for the competition that these guys play, holy cow. I mean, I wish that people understood the level of competition, the level of elite, awesome hitting, the level of fielding that's around some of these teams. It's just not even a comparison. So any player that you guys have that comes back from their college and goes, oh my gosh, I can't believe my team this. I can't believe my team lost to so-and-so. I can't believe I had this many walks. It's a different ball game. I mean, and the strike zones are smaller. These girls can hit the lights out of anything. So I really challenge people to look at it as more of really a success story, because getting there is awesome. I mean, it doesn't matter which level, whether you're talking about D1, whether you're talking about D3, whether you're talking about NAI, community college, not everybody gets to do that. And 1, you did it. 2, you played. 3, you've got stats, and I don't care if it's, 20 is your ERA. You got time on the mound, and that's not everybody. I mean, it just isn't. And that doesn't matter what position you're at. You got at bats. You want to know what my my batting average was in college? I got up 3 times. 0 for 3. So I was an awesome hitter in high school. And then, like I said, PO, what? And I'm finding that more and more for my college girls that are getting there. And they might have been unbelievable. OPS of 1.6, something crazy. And they don't get to hit in college. And that pitching role is so important that you have to keep reminding them, like, you're more important in that circle. There's other kids that can hit, I promise. I don't want you to roll an ankle, run into first. Sorry, digress there. I'm all over the place. But for me, like, this sport is just so awesome and expanding, and the new technologies really make it cool. And so when I look back and try to compare to what I did, it was pretty cool. I wish I would have embraced it back in the time. And I will say, even for the girls now, I wish they would embrace a little bit more of their high school piece. Every level that you play is an accomplishment. And so being able to, like, really enjoy that, rather than every team has a struggle, let's not try to get stuck in that struggle. Whether it's girl drama, whether it's coaches, whether it's umpires, promise you there's going to be an umpire you're going to disagree with at every level that you play. Like, just figure it out and really try to embrace your journey, because you can always do better, but don't lose the excitement of that journey that you've done, because you're pretty awesome.
So Pam, I want to ask you a question here. You've been watching a lot of the Women's College World Series. You see Carlin Pickens, 6 foot plus there, chucking just gas. You were a Division I pitcher, and you were like, I think you mentioned before, you're like 5'5", 5'6". It's a little short for a pitcher. However, did that present any special challenges for you when you were pitching growing up, or any of that?
Nope. It's a mindset. Okay. Like, realistically, sure that I don't quite have the edge of a 6'2" girl, but like I kind of said, my mindset was never limited by your size, your age, your height. Who cares? I think and I say this a lot, I was blissfully oblivious to stats. Like, we all live in stats now, right?
Right.
But to be able to look up your competition and say, oh my gosh, she's hitting 650. Oh my gosh, she's hitting 400. Like, okay, back in the day, we couldn't do that. So we're just rolling up to another team and we're going to play another team. And I wish that some of the kids now could do that. Yes, I absolutely said I was 5'6" or 5'7" on my stats. I am very much 5'5.5". I'm also going to challenge that notion a little bit, because I think probably me and you and everybody has been cheering super loud for Jordy Ball this year. Jordy Ball is all of 5'7", according to her Gatorade Player of the Year. She miraculously gained an inch if you look at her recent bios, which good for you. I don't know anybody that's grown at 18 plus, but 5'7", and that girl is hurling that ball. I think I saw a 71, 72, and it's not her wheelhouse, but she's living right around there. And she was a tough one to not fall in love with. So don't ever look at your height as a challenge. I mean, I know there's a checklist here and there for some of the schools, but it's not for everyone. I've coached in Division I. I promise you there were girls that we faced, pitchers and otherwise, that were not 5'5". So it can happen. Don't let size limit you. New is an opportunity. Go get it, right?
Yep. Yeah. So after that first year, you said you didn't play anymore due to an injury. What was the injury, and what do you think might have caused that?
I probably had some hints in high school that there was some arm injury going on. I was a chronic bicep tendonitis kid. My deltoid was constantly on fire. I even had numbness that went down through my pinky finger. And back in the day, they would just send you to physical therapy, and you would work out your scaps and try to make it more balanced, and never address any of the mechanical pieces. Gosh, I wish I knew what I knew now, right? When you look at it now, deceleration is such a big deal. And I don't try to talk to my girls a whole lot about fancy words and everything, but the sequencing of your pitch is everything. I mean, it's how we're hitting the high speeds. It's how these girls are making that ball move. And I actually can thank my poor mechanics back in the day. I mean, it was of no one's fault that that's how I threw, because that's all we knew. We could see the start of the pitch. We could see the end of the pitch. And if my follow through looked like that and my start looked like that, I must be doing it right. We didn't have the benefit of the slow motion. We watched VHS tapes, and the VHS tape was my dad bouncing around cheering. So you couldn't even see what I was doing anyway.
Yeah.
I will say that injury has really shaped who I am as a coach. I ended up with a whole lot of scar tissue up there that needed repair, and it needed to be scoped. And as a young college kid, that wasn't what I was looking to do, especially with another class coming in. And so the way that I coach now really has a lot of detail as far as what their mechanics are doing. Are they making sure that their sequencing is proper? And I know that not every kid throws alike. No two kids are the same. And so I'm not looking to make them all the same, but I will say there are some pieces that have to happen. And those deceleration pieces are what makes it healthy for your arm. You mentioned your kid that threw today, or the one that you highlighted today. I looked at her stat line, and she threw 180 pitches.
Yeah.
Now, that is wild. First off, that's wild. I couldn't even dream of that. However, if you have the proper sequencing, that's not pain. I mean, she might be fatigued, but she's not going to injure herself. And I think pain and injury are so different than fatigue. And it's something that I feel like isn't addressed often enough. I think, especially within our little group of pitching coaches, it is something that we all take note of. But there are so many injuries that it's really an easy fix. It's an easy thing to address now. And it wasn't back then. And without having a pitching coach, you just had to figure it out when you were in college. You come back home and you'd see your guy or see your girl, and hopefully they'd fix it. And if they didn't, you just keep going. Ice and biofreeze. Well, not biofreeze. It was icy hot back then.
Icy hot, yes.
Icy hot. So yeah, no, that the mechanical piece is really a big deal. And that injury piece is still a big deal. And I will say for coaches, I think more than the kids, because I don't think the kids are around it enough. For the coaches, really challenge yourself to make sure you're still learning. The learning piece, it should never end. I mean, we could all get stuck in a rut of showing what we did a while ago. If you go to a pitching coach and they say that they're teaching you the way that they taught, unless they just graduated, they probably aren't quite up to times.
Yeah, I agree. I think Ken and I say this all the time. Like as coaches, we expect our players to continue to develop and grow. But what are we doing as coaches to continue to learn, develop, and grow? Right. If we're just, we're happy with where we're at, then we're never trying to learn and get better. And I think, you can't really expect your players to do that if you're not going to do that as a coach. And I think that's something that people need to take to heart. I do want to talk a little bit though, Pam, if you don't mind. I want to switch over real quick. You got your degree in advertising. Did you work in that field at all before you started coaching? And are you still active in it? Is that your degree, what you're doing?
My degree. Okay. So like I said, I started in pre-med, but, but 1 year into a softball season and the demand of a Big Ten schedule. It switched real quick.
Yeah. Imagine it would.
Advertising was number one at Illinois at the time, and it was fantastic. I did also do a focus and concentration in marketing and sports marketing, even more so. And so no, I'm not in it now, but at the time I did some really cool things with it. Right out of school, I did an internship for, at the time, the St. Louis Rams. I interned at the time with Brad Holmes, who is now the GM over the Detroit Lions. So there's some very cool things. I would write game day programs. I would do daily reviews of the day, training camp reviews, preseason reviews, stuff that would go on the AP. So there was some very cool stuff. Understanding stats and understanding sports led to that. I did end up going into advertising in Chicago for a little bit. I was at Leo Burnett, and I did work in media buying and media planning. But at the end of the day, I ended up pregnant with twins. And pregnant with twins, that daycare in Chicagoland is a little bit more than what you make in advertising. So there's my segue for nope, not anymore. Coaching fit my schedule much better. And it's a little bit more of a passion piece for me.
So how'd you get your start in coaching?
So funny enough, I have twin boys, and as they were toddlers, I was a stay-at-home mom because I didn't do the daycare. I stopped the advertising piece, and just within my community, I lived in Plainfield, and just within my community, there were a lot of families and just young girls learning how to pitch, and you would see them in their backyard trying to do it. And so I ended up being the girl in the neighborhood who would just start working them out, right? Like, nope, this is how it's supposed to go. And I do apologize to some of them because I taught them what I knew. They ended up being okay, right? But it's where the fire lit again, right? Like you put softball down for a second and you don't realize how big of a piece of your life it was. And so then my husband ended up moving to Michigan and I came out here. And when I got here, we had a family friend that was working with a travel team and asked me to come out and work with some of the girls. And unbeknownst, the coach there ended up being Dan Vitale, who ended up owning the organization. He and I ended up tag teaming on a bunch of different things. We ended up coaching together at the biggest high school in the state. We ended up coaching together in college. Little segue of all the things, but I ended up with some great people. And they saw the talent and I said, gosh, I better make sure I'm doing this right because I certainly don't want to hurt a single kid the way that I ended up going out. So it's really broadened the way that I coach. And I've been really lucky because my environment's been awesome. I've had some great talent here too.
That definitely helps. So in your first high school coaching opportunity, you had 10 student athletes. What was that like? I mean, I imagine that injury prevention was probably the number one key for you.
It sure was. I started off at a small school called University of Liggett. I ended up as the pitching coach there. And we had a girl who was promised to go to a D1 in the area, Detroit Mercy, which I ended up coaching at years later. But she was this little thing that threw 64 and really needed some help on making sure that we could hit spots with certain movement pitches. And I stepped in there. We played Catholic League, which I don't know if you guys know what that is, but Catholic League is a 3-2 count instead of having that 4-3 count. So my pitcher in turn ended up with like 1,000 career strikeouts. Injury prevention was huge, but our school was luckily a very well-off school. We had a strength and conditioning coach full-time. So we did that during season. We had unbelievable strength trainer, and she was always available. Still one of my favorite people in all of Michigan. We worked on mobility. We ended up doing like some yoga sessions. Unbeknownst, I was really helping the girls that way. At the time I was the new coach. It was just making sure that they had range of motion. And like I said, pain was a big deal. Pain took me out. So I wanted to make sure that we didn't get to that point.
You guys were kind of ahead of your time with all that stuff. There's a lot of people that are just getting to like the yoga and the range of motion and all that kind of thing right now. You were doing it, back 20 years ago.
It was more of a fun team builder, if you will. Like high school girls, there's always personalities in different directions. And so how can you get them all in the same room and make sure that we're all coexisting and maybe we're doing something new together? And so it ended up being pretty big.
Yeah, Mean Girls isn't just a funny movie. It's also a documentary. So
it's so true. It's so
you have to be careful with that.
Yeah.
So Pam, after there, you end up at Macomb Dakota High School. Is that correct?
It is. Yeah.
So what led you there? How did you get there?
Okay. So that happened at about COVID. I was a private instructor, and when high school seasons went down for here, it ended up being a lot of private students if you ended up doing anything at all. And so the team stuff was all done. They canceled all the seasons. And so these girls weren't going into travel ball for a minute. And with Michigan, it's not like you can go outside. So I doubled down with my private instruction. And I was really lucky. I had some really talented girls that were willing to just tough it out, like figure some stuff out. And 3 of my two Division I, one other college committed, kind of said, Coach Pam, come out here. Macomb, Dakota is the biggest high school in the state of Michigan. And we have school of choice here. And that makes sports pretty competitive because district lines are not strongly enforced. You pick your high school and you stick with your high school, but in turn, if for some reason you can kind of see that you may not crack that starting lineup, you can pick a different high school. Now, while that may not be what you're supposed to do, it certainly happens. And so for Dakota, I was super lucky. This school is huge and it is athlete heavy. All right. So when I went to Dakota, Coach Vitale ended up being the head coach there. And so he wanted to make sure that I came on board and really gave me carte blanche. I could do whatever I wanted with my pitchers. It was making sure that they had the things that I wanted them to have, make them stronger for our program. And so it was kind of fun creating this one is a rise ball pitcher. So let's make sure that this one is a drop ball pitcher. Like we really wanted to have nice complementary pitching. And by the time that we made it to state finals in 2022, I had 3 Division I committed pitchers that were on the squad, which is unheard of in most high schools. If you didn't see our girl that, was just dominant throwing the ball in every quadrant, then you would see our girl that ended up throwing 68 and just close, right? There's another girl that she's committed to another D1 and her curveball and off speed were killer. It was just, you couldn't prepare for it. And that really made a fun season for us.
Yeah, I can imagine so. When you can be that dominant and have that kind of talent to work with, makes your job a little bit easier. And, I always say when I get talented kids, it makes me look like a much better coach.
Well, I'll tell you what, the fun part was building that. They had come to me. One of them split time elsewhere, and that's all good. It's kind of fun to see what other pitching coaches are doing too. Mm-hmm. But the ones that came to me, it was like, oh gosh, this didn't work in the game. And we were all on the same page. I don't think that always happens in a high school environment. There was one point in time where I was coaching, I think, every starting pitcher in our conference. So that was a lot of fun.
Did you ever want to jump out there if one of your opponents was having trouble? Say, here, you guys just stay in the dugout. I'll be right back.
Absolutely. And you can't.
Yeah.
I mean, luckily, the environment was always really friendly, at least on my end. I had some really great parents on the other end going, oh, gosh, I wish we had you at our school. and you just go, she did fantastic, right?
Yep.
That's always been my MO as a coach is, did they show up? Could they really like put on their top performance when it came down to it? So I had a lot of that, and very lucky with the environment that I was in here.
Then after that, you went to Detroit Mercy. So that's a D1 school. And what was that transition like? Was it different coaching, not only in college, but at the D1 level? Was it something where you looked at it and said, hey, yeah, this is a familiar environment, or did it feel different?
Oh, very different. Walking into a program where you haven't been able to build the program. I haven't been able to build those pitchers for years. Walking into talent that I didn't recruit. Luckily, I had some really great kids. I mean, I had kids that were willing, they were super talented, but it definitely felt different. I knew how to treat all of my girls at Dakota, and I knew what was going on in their lives. I knew their families. I could ask them about grades, and to them, they don't know me either. So are you this guy who's going to turn around and, throw this at me, or is she going to be my friend, or can she not be my friend because she's a coach? It was definitely a learning experience. I will say I absolutely loved my talented players there. I'm still great friends with a lot of the pitchers there, but it was very different. Same way as when you go from high school. Well, when I had to transition from 40 to 43 feet, it's a learning curve. Same thing as these girls moving on up, and it's a learning curve. The things that got us by in high school probably aren't going to be the exact same things that work in a college environment. So the amount of hours we're allowed to work, a big deal. The coaching that they came from, a big deal. I mean, what they learned and what they think is moving versus what is actually happening, very different. Hitters can hit some things that they thought was, an unstoppable pitch, may not be that way in a college environment. Reality checks happened all over the board. So I think what I found more than anything is attitude. Coming into any team, attitude has always been something that I cared a whole lot about, and making sure that it's a positive environment, because you've probably heard girls play well when they feel well. They have to feel good. You have to make sure that they're in the right mindset. And the team that I ended up coaching for, we were not the winningest team on earth. That's hard on everyone. And so how do you as a coach get used to that feeling? How do you make sure that your team stays up? How do you make sure that your pitchers stay up? It's a new environment, but I would say that it's very much like life, right? How are you going to get through a tough situation? So I think this sport, more than anything, that's what it is. How do you overcome? You can be better. Have a goal. Go do it. And don't ignore the good stuff that you did, because they do some really great stuff. Even if you weren't the winningest team, that pitch was unbelievable. Your rise ball was unbelievable today. We just hung a curveball. So it was definitely challenging. It was definitely different. And the way that I said, when I played college, it was very lucky that I could be oblivious to who I was playing. That's not a thing in college now. They know everything that you can do. They know your weaknesses. They have a heat map that shows where you've hit the ball. And in the quadrant of the pitching areas, like, what is your strength and where should I throw you? Those stats are everywhere. And so they just need to know it and then blissfully throw it aside, because chances are you're not calling your own game. You have to be able to hit your spot and be able to move within that quadrant. There is multiple spots within a low and inside. There are multiple spots within a high and on the hands. And so that is one of the biggest challenges I would tell the girls, is make sure that you have your location. Your spin has to be on, but more than anything, your location can't be off.
Dude, I think that's also, I think you're talking about too, like the coachability up there at that level. Like, are kids willing to make the adjustments they need to make when they're in the bullpens with you after being taught a certain way, or, after having someone prior teach them something different. I think that's a big thing as well too. That my experience with that is like, if you're getting buy-in from them, I think, even on the bad days there still can be some kind of good that comes out of that. So I think that's an important thing, even at that level, for them to do that. And I agree with you, Pam. I think a lot of it too is like, what, that, sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail, right? And it's like, how to, that's a part of this game. Like, you're not going to win every game. You're just not going to.
Some days you're cruising along and you're winning 3-1 in the top of the 7th, and all of a sudden you end up losing 4-3.
That is very true. Very true. But again, how you put that into perspective for student athletes, I think, is the biggest thing, right? Like, I'd always try to look at the positive of what they were doing instead of focusing on the things that it's not like I'm sure Pickens knows that she shouldn't have put that ball in that spot. We're going to beat her up for that. Like, no, right? Like, right. Yeah. And we got to get back to work is all it is. So I think your experience there too is telling, a telling tale of the good stuff that's going on. So your approach to them is really good. Can you talk a little bit about the time restrictions at that level when you were there? Because people think that we're just, you're able to work with these kids all the time. It's just not the case. Can you talk a little bit about some of those?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely not the case. You will be restricted depending on what part of the season it is. And then there are some parts of the season where we're not allowed to touch you whatsoever. So like December, no, 0 instruction, 0. But when we're in fall ball, so you get to your school and I believe you immediately have 20 hours. Okay. So of those 20 hours, let's say you practice 5 days a week with your team. There are certain amounts that are team practices, right? 2 hours a day. 2 times 5 is there goes 10 hours. Okay. Well, now I'm not just a PO. I'm also a hitter. Okay. Well, there's hitting instruction 5 days a week for an hour. Oh, there goes another 5 hours. Slowly we're ticking down. Wait a second. We're strength and conditioning too. Let's not forget that counts as within our hours. Yes, so there's 1 hour a day. There goes another 5 hours. So now we're working with these. I have 5 hours total for the week. Okay, awesome. I can't wait. 5 hours. That's an hour a day, right? Well, wait a second. We have a fall ball game on that day. And that's automatically 3 hours. Automatically. I don't care if you're out there for 6 hours. It counts as 3 hours. Okay. Oh, all right. That's gone. Well, shoot, I've still got 2 hours, right? Wait, I don't have a catcher. I have class all day on Monday and I have class all day on Wednesday. I don't have a catcher at those times. Wait, my pitching coach isn't there? You just slowly take out these chunks of time and then you're left with these limited amounts. And so the challenge I would have for any pitcher that goes in is, one, make sure that you're on time, early even, right? You can work out with your catcher or with the person that's catching you before you get your pitching coach official instruction. Warm up, because if you're taking 10, 15 minutes to warm up and you're sucking that 5 days a week, how much instruction are you really getting? How much are we spending on a fastball, right? When really you wanted to work on the break of your rise ball.
Yes.
So you look at it and you go, oh my gosh, that's so much time. And it's not. And I think that a lot of pitchers too, if they're pitching in a scrimmage per se during the actual full team practice, are you going to want to pitch a full hour earlier that day? Okay, maybe you don't. Well, are you going to want to go 2 hours a different day? Mm-hmm. Are you going to be able to get a catcher to do that?
You know who I felt sorry for the most is I felt sorry for the catchers.
Yes.
Like just so no instruction. They had to hit, right? And then they're going to come. Their only work was catching a bullpen. Like,
yes,
we're not doing any blocking or framework or, I felt so sorry for the catchers. Even sometimes at St. Xavier, I feel sorry for them. So I try to incorporate them into our bullpens of what we're doing, but it's like when I was at Loyola, I felt sorry. I felt like there was time to get some instruction in there with them. And I feel like sometimes they're kind of left out just, you're going to get your work in when you're catching a bullpen.
My help to them is so minimal and it's sad. I feel really bad for it. They'll come in and they'll work their little tails off and they might be working through injury. They might be, the amount of reps that those kids get behind the plate, holy cow. I mean, and they really get beat up during the season. There is no rest once they get to the end. And bullpens really are far and in between once you get into season. It's hard to do. So when you see those girls that are in between innings down in the bullpen and you're going, gosh, how are they still throwing right now? That might be the only time they get to work on that pitch. It just doesn't present itself otherwise. So yeah, no, I agree with you. Catchers they are the unsung hero. They really don't get all the accolades that they deserve because they are constantly working. Constantly.
Yep. So pitchers every now and then carry your catcher's equipment for them. Help them out.
At least buy them a Starbucks, right?
Yeah, there you go. So Pam, I want to jump ahead. You're as a private instructor. I mean, that's been most of your thing. You're committed to continuous improvement as a coach. What are some of the cool or interesting things you've been involved with recently or that you're looking into to try to improve yourself the way you always tell your players they need to improve themselves?
I would say within our pitching group, we do a lot of different things to try to expand our knowledge, right? One of my favorite things that we do is just break down each other's pitchers. I don't think we do that nearly enough. But most recently, we've jumped into motor preferences. And I find that fascinating. Understanding why some of these girls can't do what the girl next to them did. It just makes so much more sense. Not everyone is a 6'2" Carlin Pickens,
Yeah.
That movement is so different than your 5'7" Jordy Ball, right? Or even your Nigeria Kennedy. Like they're all such different body positions, such different body types. What is explosive to one is certainly not the same movement as it is for another. And motor preferences make stuff make sense. I've been shocked. So my motor preference dial, which not everybody's going to even be able to even be on the same page with what we're talking about there, but which leg is my primary leg, right? Which is the one that likes to do the most work. It may mimic some of my other pitchers. And it's funny because years after years, I found that I teach my girls the way that I pitched, right? It's what feels right. And it's been the lucky piece for me is I can go and I can grab a ball and I can see if it makes sense to me. Ken, you may say, hey, what if you scap loaded at this point within your pitch? And I can go try it and tell you whether or not I think that feels right. Well, I've always done that. It certainly makes sense. And before I ever had slow motion, it was something that, okay, that checks. That's valid. Now, with motor preferences, it can make sense as to why it didn't work for this girl. Why it didn't work for that 6'2" girl that, gosh, we tried so darn hard. How come that didn't work? And I really have enjoyed that. I mean, it's something as easy as the way that you stabilize on your front side. We've all heard of front side resistance. It may be the way that you breathe. I mean, I have some girls say, I don't breathe. I have other girls that are grunting. You have all different types, and motor preference at least makes it make sense. I don't have to understand it all, and I certainly don't claim to understand it all. But it is something that I feel like it's given some validation to the differences from pitcher to pitcher, because we certainly wouldn't want to teach every single one of them the same.
Yeah, they've always talked about you don't want to clone your players. You got to let them kind of move within their individual methods. But I think motor preferences really helps kind of quantify that, helps us understand or be able to recognize a little bit more what someone's inclined to do so we can guide them better. That's at least what I've found with it.
Yeah, and it's made things a little bit easier for instruction. The way that I kind of tell all of my girls when they come in and we're just running through a lesson, it's that we're trying to create a recipe together. It isn't something that I've got the magic ingredient right here. We're working on this thing together because I don't pretend to know everything. If you run into something that I don't know what I'm doing, I certainly will be asking someone else what their opinion is, or if they've ever run into that. Does this feel right? Does this feel wrong? Does it make sense? And I would challenge most pitchers that if something doesn't make sense, please make sure you communicate. And I think that's what makes me a good coach, is because I really challenge them to talk to me. I feel like I know my girls, and even the weird face that they'll throw at me after that pitch. Okay, what was that about?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, figure out the recipe together.
Pam, you talked about you had twin boys.
I do.
Okay, so what's the difference, or what do you think what kind of difference do you see with working with girls compared to working with your boys?
So my twin boys are 15, so they are completing their freshman year in high school. And gosh, the older they get, the more I realize that baseball and softball are different. They do play baseball, they play soccer. The one is a kicker for football. But for baseball, I would say that the journey is quite different. For recruiting for softball, I feel like the push is really once you get to high school. Like you are looking at your travel ball and you have to play. Okay, let me clarify something. You do not have to play a national team to get recruited for a D1 school. Let me say that again. You do not have to play a national travel team to be recruited by a Division I school. You will get looked at your local tournaments. Be competitive. Whatever you're playing, be competitive. Do not show up with a bad attitude, but you play how you practice. A lot of different things are really straightforward. If you're going to a place that you know that there are going to be coaches, be prepared to show up, get there on time, have a good attitude, be prepared. And that emphasis, I really feel like happens like your sophomore year of high school for girls. For boys, it is a monster. If you are not playing in a bigger competitive team that wants to go play a PGF, which they have perfect game tournaments, they have perfect game invites, and everything is metrics. Everything. So if you are not a 1%er, do not go to perfect game. all you are is the lower part of the measuring stick. You're making that 1%er stand out even harder. And I certainly don't see the purpose of doing a perfect game when you are 9 and 10 years old. And that's whether you're softball or baseball, just in my own recruiting world head. I would say that I think like a Twitter is a really nice tool. And it's something that maybe isn't pushed as much as it should be. I think that stats being easily accessible, where a coach doesn't have to go log in and then get logged out because we didn't change our password, and make it as easy as possible. Updating your stats and showing what work you've done, it speaks volumes. And then communicate. If you end up with a coach that has interest, communicate with them. Don't be scared. They're people. They're searching for their next team. Even if it's, hey, coach, I am so swamped with finals right now. I promise I'll get back to you next week. Fine. Like, show me that you're a student first. That's big. And I will say student first is a big deal. Like, grades are going to limit where you go. Baseball, same. I can't tell you how many talented baseball kids that I've seen that weren't able to do anything because their grades didn't allow it. Sports are fantastic, but they only get you so far. So,
very true.
Yeah, baseball versus softball. Baseball is king as far as money and numbers and teams. They just have more and more and a little bit more technology too. But softball is growing and it is awesome. It is so cool to see what it's doing and seeing Major League Baseball getting involved and seeing what the professional stuff is taking off. I mean, I love the growth, but just know that you do have to stand out. So if you're looking to get to the next level, make sure that you're making yourself noticeable in a good way.
Great. So what advice do you have for players that might be making the transition to coaching or younger coaches that are looking to expand their careers? Any thoughts on that?
Just never stop learning. I think that conveying that you want to understand what they're doing, you want to keep progressing. I think whether you're the coach, whether you're the student, we're trying to build that recipe together. And I think that if you get to a point where you're coaching and you think you know it all, Usually that's not a good place. Bring some people on board to challenge you in that direction, because it is ever growing. I mean, I think our group especially, like, we're always finding new things, whether we're talking about pulsing or breathing techniques, or we're talking about our motor preferences, whether we're talking about the importance of, foot stability here or there. Someone's always trying to advance pieces. So there will be something to learn. It's whether or not that's applicable, right? And you'd rather at least have that knowledge and be able to say, nah, that's not really for us, versus having no idea.
True.
But have a goal. Always have a goal and keep learning.
Well, Pam, we really appreciate all the time you've given us today. I know that we've probably run a little more than the hour that we'd planned on, but it's been a great discussion. No, don't be sorry. We're glad. We're happy to hear your thoughts. One thing I did want to mention, if someone's interested in working with you, if they like what they heard and they're up in that Detroit area, I assume that's where you are.
It is.
Okay. How do they get a hold of you? What's your business name and how do they get a hold of you?
Sure. Right now it's just email, pamsavich@gmail.com. And I promise I will get back to you. It is super crazy, especially with my kids the age that they are. But I promise that they will have some fun instruction, and we will get to know each other a little bit better. And we'll figure it out together. I didn't spell it or anything. Fantastic. Does that matter? I guess I could have spelled Savage. It's all good.
Thanks again for joining us today, Pam.
Yeah.
Really appreciate your insights on a lot of stuff today. And hopefully people that are listening will take some notes away from some of the stuff that you talked about. So again, thank you so much for spending time with Ken and I today, and for our listeners. I think it's, again, our whole goal of this thing is just to help other coaches get better. So there's a lot that you shared with us today that hopefully people are taking notes and can take some takeaways from what you'd said. So thanks again for your time today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it. You guys are fantastic.
Well, thank you. And that's it for us this week. Thanks to all of you for listening and the kind words you've been sharing with us. If you like what you're hearing, please remember to give us a like, leave a comment. If you've got some time, share this podcast on your social media channels, and maybe leave us a great review on Apple Podcasts to help more people find us. So on behalf of the From the Coach's Mouth podcast, have a great rest of your week and weekend, and make sure that you're enjoying the whole softball journey.